I'm Rory from XR Today, bringing the latest in news and conversation from the extended reality space. Joining me today is the CEO and President of the Orlando Economic Partnership, Tim Giuliani. Welcome and thanks so much for making the time for me again today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Rory.
Thank you so much for joining me. So, to kick us off, can you introduce the Unity OEP partnership for those unaware? And perhaps could you give us insight into why you and your team chose to develop a digital twin of the Orlando region?
Sure. The Orlando Economic Partnership, one of its missions is to attract businesses and business investment into the Orlando region. And so we partnered with Unity over the last year to develop a digital twin that allows us at its sort of phase one level to bring in potential businesses, investors into the market and to give them a high level geographic overview of Central Florida. It's a very big area. There's 800 square miles in our digital twin. So instead of driving them everywhere, we now have a tool to geographically orient them. I mean, we can get down into the parking lot of buildings that they may be considering and also overlay all of our data to make it a much more visual experience.
Fantastic. And within that, could you talk a little bit more? We're going to talk more about potential use cases for it, but could you talk a little bit more about how businesses can get to know the region better through that digital twin? I imagine it also helps with things like architecture and establishing local businesses too. A little bit more insight into that would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll just give you an example of how we use it most. When a company is considering an investment and maybe they're picking just say a southeastern U.S. city, they may go to 3 or 4 different cities. And so when Orlando's on that list and we bring them in, we wanted to demonstrate, we have the largest modeling and simulation cluster in the world. And so we wanted to demonstrate to people when they visit, because most people think Orlando, they think Disney, Universal, and they've been here for a vacation. What they may not understand is that this is where the space race was built out of in the US. So we have a lot of technology here, and we're able to put a lot of that on demonstration through our digital twin since it was largely built here in Orlando.
Fantastic. I think that's a very interesting point about helping to establish local, not so much digital, but just local technological innovations as well. And as you say, having a history with that, I guess the project helps to redefine the region in many ways, not just for technology, but maybe also for retail and other business too.
Yeah, there's sort of endless opportunities. We wanted to come out, there was enough support for an investment in a digital twin for marketing purposes and sort of that geographical orientation that we use it for now. There's a lot of value in that for us in creating that wow factor for investors and companies looking at Orlando. But that's just the beginning of where we plan to go with the digital twin.
Fantastic. I really want to touch on that, but just one last question about those investors. I just want to know, when presenting such a topic or such a product to investors, how's the feedback been? Has it been positive? Are people excited to, as you say, find that value incentive?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were looking for, something that was a wow factor, something that made people realize, oh, Orlando is a lot more than theme parks and tourism. And it clearly does that. It's, even at this phase one stage, we have a great sort of 180-degree LED wall. There's floor to ceiling screens. We've got 4K screens on the floor and translucent panels to give it a 3D type of perspective. And so there's a definitive wow factor. And it's a lot more exciting than sitting through 75 PowerPoint slides. It's a conversation. People are standing around. They don't have headsets on. They're able to engage in a conversation, walk around. It's a much more engaging conversation than it used to be.
Brilliant. I think that's a very key point, is the engagement of immersive tech, no matter what vertical it's in.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take a little bit of a wider look now at the OEP roadmap for this technology. So it'd be great to learn a little bit more, and you've touched on this, but a bit of a broader idea would be fantastic to know how you're taking this project and how are you growing it from first establishing this digital twin of the region, bringing in investors and new eyes into the region from a technological standpoint, to potentially tackling citywide issues, challenges with that tech.
Yeah, we're having those conversations now, and one thing that we discovered early on, even though our vision goes well beyond this phase one marketing center, what we realized is that because the technology is so new in this sort of use, is that we had to have people come in and see it to understand it. And once they see it and they could wrap their head around it, then they can envision, oh, this is how we plug in transit data, for instance. This is how we plug in utility data. And what if we electrified the bus fleet? What would that do? What would be the impacts to our energy grid? And where would we need to make investments? If we put a new train station in here, how's that going to impact traffic and local connectivity? So we're just now having those conversations and bringing people into the marketing center to understand, how they might be able to help us co-develop phase two, phase three, so that we could bring in all of these variety of stakeholders and then really take this digital twin from a marketing center into sort of a real working, live, real-time digital twin.
It sounds like the real world use cases are not so much emerging, but they just seem to be rolling in with the phases by the sounds of it then, or at least the potential for those use cases. Yeah, you said something I thought was quite interesting there though. The whole idea of once you get investors and get individuals into the room seeing the technology, it sounds like they immediately pick up on it. And it's this whole idea of seeing is believing. And sometimes I feel like when chatting to individuals like yourself in these sectors, that's the hardest issue, is getting people to see it and understand exactly the benefits of that. And I imagine those who've seen it have understood the potential benefits, or benefits that are already going.
Yeah, I think it was really wise. I don't think we realized at the time, but now we do. And that is, we needed to get out sort of that MVP. We needed to get something in place that people could come and see to give us the opportunity to take it further. There's no way we, could have taken this on and, sort of built the whole mansion at one time. It would never have been finished. So we got the foundation laid, and now, we're looking for partners to take that vertical.
That's quite interesting to think. I think there's a lot of similar metaverse or VR, AR, immersive technologies that are finding their foundations at the moment, and it must be great to have it interconnected into a whole region and a whole area. But could we move on to some of the integrated tech? Obviously, with any immersive tech project, it is very much defined by the sum of its parts. You touched on some of the integrated technology in presenting this digital twin with the LED light panels, etc. I'd love to learn more about that, and perhaps what integrated tech fueled the digital twin project's development. AI, machine learning, photogrammetry, drones. It'd be great to learn a little bit more about all of that.
Yeah, I think most important is what it looks like. And compared to the other digital twins that I've seen that kind of maybe don't focus in on like an industrial use where it's a machine or tool, where the digital twins of an area, this digital twin sort of visually is much different. And the technology, I think, is leveraging Unity's gaming platform. One easy way to think about what we did is, we basically created a video game of Orlando. And so all the photogrammetry and sort of the AI that connects, on like the southern exposure of buildings to create a more holistic view as you zoom in to see the different parts of the city are really impressive. And that visual is really what gets people's attention most. I think, when you walk into the marketing center and you've got that curved 180-degree wall, you feel like you're in it. And then it's on the floor and coming out of the floor. And so you're looking down into the city, you're looking out. It also gives us the capabilities that we could put any chart, graph, video, image, you name it, can also go on that screen. So it becomes a much more dynamic presentation instead of just, only looking at sort of the geography. And then behind that, or maybe laid on top of that, you've got 80 data sources. And so there's public, there's private, there's proprietary, there's all these different data points that we could lay over top of the geography. So you could see available buildings, you can see per capita income down to the neighborhood level. You can see educational attainment levels. You can see the region come to life and begin to understand the full picture, which is pretty impressive. And then it runs off of a tablet. And the thing maybe we were most concerned about is once we had this sort of fancy tool, would it be easy to use? And it turns out that because it's built on a gaming engine, it's no more complicated than playing a video game. So, it's kind of a video game meets PowerPoint, and you set up your bookmarks, which are the different geographies with the data overlaying it. You save the bookmark, you put the bookmarks in order, and now you've got a presentation flow. And then at the end, if anyone has questions, we use the tablet and we can pull up a certain bookmark. Say they're looking at housing prices, and they want to look in a certain part of town, maybe over towards the beach. Well, we could pull that up for them because it's one of the 80 data points or sources that we have loaded into the digital twin.
Fantastic. And I very much appreciated within my own examples, I didn't really include just the idea of gaming technology, or sometimes referred to as real-time 3D content creation suites. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very important. I think it's very important to consider the effects of the gaming industry or gaming technology industry on solutions such as your own. And I guess within that, it's quite interesting because that can really push accessibility. As younger and younger generations get into industry and enterprise, they're far more familiar with these tools than previous generations. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is picked up.
Yeah, and in fact, we already have about 15 people in our office that can run a presentation. We didn't have to hire anybody to kind of be the tech support, if you will, to handle this. Now, it's not the easiest thing to run through the presentation on the tablet and speak at the same time. So we typically team people up so that there's more than one person kind of orchestrating the presentation. That does help with the flow. But again, anyone that spends, 30, 45 minutes getting up to speed on it can immediately start to play or to use the digital twin.
And I suppose as individuals from the OEP, as well as other third-party individuals, as the technology becomes more accessible and easy to use, that 30, 40 minutes is going to become maybe 10 or 20. So it's only going to become easier, excuse me. So to close us off, I just wanted to chat about the Meta Center. I wanted to get a little bit more insight into the Meta Center, and perhaps within that, some closing thoughts on the future of enterprise-grade metaverse services, because I think you kind of come with a bit more of a unique perspective here rather than just a specific use case. As you say, it feels like you're building a foundation of something a bit wider, so it'd be good to get a little bit of an insight into all that.
Yeah, so Orlando is interesting because most people think they know Orlando, and then they get into it and they realize they didn't know what they didn't know. And what I mean by that is, by the space program being founded here, Lockheed Martin was here before Disney. The university was created to fuel talent to the space program, and now it's the second largest university in America. So we have this incredible talent pool. We used Unity to develop the digital twin. They actually have more developer licenses here in Orlando than anywhere else in the world. So when it comes to bringing things to life, and that's using 3D reconstruction, that's using game development, that's using modeling and simulation. All of those components are already stronghold here. Those used to look like different sectors or different silos, but as this sort of metaverse technology and understanding of this sort of XR world, you now see all of these different sectors actually work together to create, however you want to define the metaverse. And so all the branches of the U.S. military have procurement offices here. There's over $6 billion that flow through those offices every year, largely to local companies, dealing with modeling and simulation. And this digital twin project is just, and the metaverse is just kind of the next generation of that technology. And so that's why Orlando is being called the Meta Center. This is the place where all those technologies already exist and have been developed, and now as the metaverse matures, all of these companies are part of it.
Fantastic. I always like to call, because it feels like an international race, and it's quite interesting all the talking about NASA, etc., because I always like to define it as almost a metaverse space race. I always feel that's a good description of it, with the companies all running towards getting to that end point. That's a fantastic description of everything. I really appreciate your time. For those watching, I wanted to ask what is the best way to get in touch and keep up to date with everything Orlando Economic Partnership?
Yeah, if you're interested in learning a little bit more, investorlando.org is our site that's tailor made for people that are just looking to dive a little deeper into Orlando, into our tech community, understand the opportunities that are here. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with us, and so I would just say, next stop online here is investorlando.org.
Fantastic. And that's it from myself. Get more XR news by subscribing to our XR Today's news channel. I'm Rory Greener from XR Today. Thank you very much for joining me, Tim. That's everything we got for the day. Thank you so much for watching.